Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call to order the December 14th regularly scheduled meeting of the Lamar County School Board. Before we get started, I've asked Mr. Buddy Norris to give us the word.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you, God, for the school district that we represent. We are here to take care of the business as you see fit. We thank you for them, and we thank you for the leadership, the administration, the principals, everyone that has the decisions that they have to make during these tough times that we have. We do pray for all the sick that we have. We pray for your healing and your your healing touch and your comfort touch, and that you'll be with them and comfort each and every one of them. We pray that you're with us tonight, that you guide us, direct us, that we would make the decisions that would be honoring and pleasing to you. And Father, I just ask you to begin to be with us as we do conduct the business, the important business of this school district. Father, I do pray that you forgive us of our sins, our failures. We ask us all in your Son, Jesus Christ's precious name we do. Amen.
Amen. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, item number 2 is our meeting procedures. This is basically, if you've not already been approved to be on the agenda, you cannot speak at the meetings. Item number 3 is the approval of the general agenda. Have a motion.
So I have something that I think we need to add to the agenda on, it would be, I think we need to discuss a plan for education moving forward with our elementary schools, lower and upper elementary schools.
Second. Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? And that passes. Item number 4 is recognition.
All right. We have some very good recognitions tonight. Coach, y'all come on in. I'm sure it's happened before, but I can't think of, and maybe coaches, y'all can tell me, but to have 2 state championships in one district is phenomenal. And so I just asked our 2 coaches, Coach Jones, Zach Jones from Lumberton. They were 12-1 this year. I think you lost the first game, didn't you? And it kind of set the tone for the rest of the year, didn't it?
Bad taste in your mouth.
It did. And kids don't like losing, so that was something to think. And so they finished the year ranked number 1, of course, with the state championship, number 1 in 1A. Lumberton also had Robert Henry, who was 2 years in a row Mr. Football for 1A,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
And so would you like to say anything to the board, or?
Yeah, just thank y'all for allowing us. I know it's tough. Thank y'all for working with us, allowing us to play this year. I know it's been a lot to our kids, but we appreciate all y'all do.
So at 3 o'clock on Friday, I recovered from a heart attack after the 42-yard pass that was caught in the end zone to win the ball game from our 1A state championship. And then at 7 o'clock, we turned around and I had another heart attack. And Coach Causey asked him to come in. They were 13-0. They finished as the number 1 ranked team in the state out of all football teams in our state, and they finished number 1 in 6A. Coach Causey was also selected as Mississippi Association of Coaches Coach of the Year. Coach Causey was also selected as coach to coach in the Mississippi Association of Coaches Bernard Blackwell North-South All-Star Game. And so, Coach, we appreciate it. You like to say anything to the board, or?
Yeah, I'd just like to echo what Zach said. Just thank y'all for letting us play this year. With y'all's guidance, with us having to put the plan out there to y'all, every one of y'all to approve it, we just really appreciate it because, I think football and sports are very essential for our kids. And, I think both of us had talked about it the other day. We probably have some kids that wouldn't have gone to school probably and done the way they've done. So just thank y'all very much.
Well, and I'll tell you, in the regular season, to make it we used to say Jackson, but now it is Jackson again.
Jackson again. So.
And so to make it to the state championship game it's difficult. But in this time that we're facing with all the quarantines and all that, I think it would be even more difficult. And it just speaks to the organization the leadership, these two guys for their program. And I don't want to, I don't want to just, but these two guys made it too, but all our football programs did a phenomenal job this year of monitoring their staff, monitoring their students, monitoring players, putting in the safety protocols, following those safety protocols, and keeping their students safe during this time. So the one thing that was most impressive to me for these two guys, and we had it happen in both games, and the sportsmanship that was shown after the ball game is a direct reflection of these guys and their leadership of how their team, their players could have been selfish in celebrating their victory, but consoled team members from the other team. And so it was just amazing to see that what our kids in our district, they care about one another, they care about others, and that's, if you can't learn that through athletics and things like that, the work, the hard work, the dedication and empathy that you have for your fellow man, that's what it's about. That's worth more than those. And I'm sorry, those are great accomplishments for life. That's worth more than those gold footballs. And so I appreciate and thank you guys for what y'all do on a day in day out basis. So, Boyd, would y'all like to?
Where you want?
Right, let's do.
Both of them? Might as well.
Let it go there.
Now we know why he really had y'all coming. Dress for him too. Go tight and go to the trophy.
Got some more football coach right there. That's right.
Thank y'all. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Coach Halsey, Coach Jones, we'll see y'all back here next year, right?
Hope so.
Same time, same place? All right.
Coach Halsey, you've told me before that if I come to a game, you'll let me call at least one play. Would you have let me call that last play?
No, you always got the first.
Good call, coach.
Hey, look, and I'll give you like a choice, like there'll be two calls and A or B.
The first play is either kick or receive, right? I mean, so.
That's true. See y'all.
See you. Bye, guys. As they vacate, our next are on their way. Of course, we're trying to abide by 10. For those who are at home, we're trying to abide by 10 in the room at one time. For the governor's mandate. Thank you. Come on in. I'd like to welcome Scott Pickering, CEO.
How are y'all?
Community Bank, and David McCollum, President of Community Bank, and they'd like a presentation to the board. I'll give them the floor.
Thank you. We want to donate $50,000 to Lamar County Schools. Just to show y'all, what we think you're doing is right, and to help push it along. Education of kids is nothing more important to the development of a community. It's nice to know it can be done on the public side.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This money will go to our Early Learning Collaborative, a donation to our Early Learning Collaborative, and it'll be received into and be used specifically towards our Early Learning Collaborative and our higher lower socioeconomic areas of our district to help for those areas. So I appreciate you guys. I mean, you don't know how much this is going to help. And it is something that is definitely going to help our students. And like I said before, early childhood education, that's where we have to make sure we attend to, because that way we can make sure that they get on the right track. And it's all about, running a race in education for 13 years, kindergarten for 12 years. The better start you have on that race, the more likely you'll be able to finish. And so we look forward to using this money to help several of our students be able to get a head start on that race. And so, is there anything in the board?
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you
very
very
much.
much.
Thank you. If we can get a picture.
Where's the one?
Whichever way.
Yes, Jay.
I was smiling.
Thank you.
Smile around.
You guys smile when you're out, right?
Thank you. Thank you for coming down.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Again, thank y'all for
Thank
y'all take care.
Would also like to one of the things that we're running into, and I want to show my appreciation to one of our board members, Matt Mayo. He made a sizable donation to our early learning collaborative too. And we'll use that to show that, because sometimes we get into thinking that because we have all these businesses and banks come in and donate this money, that it can only be businesses or banks or, that sort of thing. Individuals can make donations to our early learning collaborative and receive a tax credit dollar for dollar for their state income tax. And so that's important. And to this date, I had one other, I had an individual, Jason Wesley from State Farm Insurance, who donated over $2,000 himself. To this date, we've collected in donations for our early learning collaborative $432,000. And that's we still got time. People, we still have time. And with this money, this money is going to help, and we've already earmarked some of it to start. We're going to look at our waiting lists in our areas, and wherever we have waiting lists, we're going to look at adding a teacher, another pre-K class to facilitate another class, because we always have waiting lists and people waiting to get into our program that is do that here. So.
Can I say one thing about it?
Yes.
Guys, if you have any questions on how to do it, I'm happy to help you, but there's an allocation at the state level every year. And it's $7 million this year that can go with the program. They've never gotten over 3. So there's money available. And anybody, if you're already paying state income tax, it's a dollar for dollar credit. So it's money already spent. You just get to choose to send it to Jackson, let them decide what to do with it. Or you can choose to put it in Lamar County, where we know it impacts our community.
Correct.
So if anybody has questions about it, they're happy to call me, because I've worked with the state to coordinate it, figure out how it works, and because the bank was able to do it in a number of our districts. But I'd love to tell you about it and help you be able to participate.
Absolutely.
It's got to be done by the end of the year.
By the end of the year, December 31st is the cutoff. So now I do have another recognition that I'd like. It's a very special recognition. Mr. Morris, if you'll step up here for us, please. Stay right there. Stay right there. He's the camera. Okay. 12 years for a school board member, that is a lot. And I know I've been in the district for 3 years, and I've seen what this board has done. I've seen the evidence that this board has done. Think about, can you talk to us about when you started on this board 12 years ago, what were the size? Do you remember the student count?
6,900,
Now we're at 10,300.
900 and some odd employees.
Now we're right at 1,400, 1,500 employees. And so.
Budget was 67 million.
Okay, and we're at 106 million now. And so, that shows the growth of this district. And when you grow that fast, I mean, you have to build that many buildings, and that all comes from the school board. And this is just a small token of our appreciation to commemorate and tell you how much we appreciate what you've done for this district and your impact. And that's what you guys, I hope you understand, is that the impact of this board has lasting effects, and the decisions you make on a monthly, daily basis for our students. It just is hugely impactful, and our students have been successful. And I think you're starting to see some of those kids when you come in now that they're getting older and being more successful. It's pretty neat to see, So
It is.
I appreciate you in my short time. I know we've had several conversations that I sincerely appreciate your help in everything that you do. Is there anybody else on the board that would like to say something this time? Or?
I want to echo some of the things that, when I started on the board, and I'm not positive when, 5 or 6 years ago, and Buddy was obviously at that time, I think that he was the president or the outgoing president. Buddy was very, very helpful for me as a new board member, teaching me some of the things, what to do and some of the things not to do. Mm-hmm. I've learned in the time that I've been on the board how taxing it can be at times. Sometimes it's smooth sailing. We haven't had smooth sailing in a long time. and Buddy has rode this ride with us for that time, and I really appreciate what he's done for the district. 12 years is a long time, and he's done it well for the time that I've seen it, for sure. So, yes.
I'd also like to echo that. I mean, I came on the board 3 years ago, and I think you were president at that time, and here I am sitting in that same seat. And I learned from you, and I appreciate all the time you put in. You just put in a lot of hours to this district, and we truly, truly appreciate everything you've done.
Well, if we step over here, we'll get us a picture. Yeah. I know I'm kind of long-winded on recognitions, but I got one more. And, this is going to be just as tough as Mr. Morris is, Chief. Come on. He hates these things, but I'm not really sure. It's one of those things I'd like to be called out. As you all know, that this is our last meeting with Chief Rosser. He's been with the district for 15 years and started our police department and has grown and has had a huge impact to the safety of our students, but also our faculty, to our administrators. The things that they do, him and his officers do on a daily basis, is mind-blowing to know the what ifs, and they attune and have a plan for all the what ifs. And so it's safe it helps me sleep at night knowing that we've had his leadership, and his leadership will continue because his influence will continue on the police department, because they are a well-oiled machine, and they get things done. And since being here, working closely with him here the last couple of months as superintendent, I saw as district office leadership, as assistant superintendent, I saw a lot of what was going on. But now working closely, I've actually been able to see all the little nuances that happen, and it is incredibly impressive to know that their sole focus is the safety of our students and faculty and staff. And when you have 19 campuses, 160 some odd buses, 1,600 employees or 1,500 employees, 10,350 students, and 95,000 square miles, is that about right?
About 53 square miles.
53 square miles, okay. 53 square miles that they monitor, because we have campuses all over this district. To put together the department he has with the team he has I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. What you've done, appreciate you. Does anybody would like to say anything?
I would.
Okay.
And Chief Rosser, and I'm sure that Rick Norton will echo what I'm saying, because I was telling him at the time, he's the only other person that was in the room when I came here 12 years ago with Rick Norton. He had been here a year. Chief Rosser, he wasn't in the room when I said that. So Chief Rosser is probably the most professional, and he does his job. I mean, he is so good at what he does.
Absolutely.
And when he has investigative work to do, you will not find it any better at the crossing the T's and the dotting the I's. And if you go and Rick has to go to court with it, Rick will tell you he's ready to go if he has to have whatever Chief Rosser has. And it's been an honor to serve alongside of him in this district.
Absolutely.
He is just absolutely phenomenal at what he does.
Absolutely.
I join with Buddy in saying that. I need to also say about Buddy. Buddy has probably had more emails and text messages to me than anybody else. He's passionate about what he does. He's done a fantastic job. Chief Rosser and I have had more conversations, phone calls, than I have with everybody else. But people don't realize he goes out at night.
Yes.
Weekends.
Yes.
Okay. We've had multiple lawsuits in the last 13 years I've been here, and the paperwork was always in order.
Yes.
Chief, whoever trained you did a great job, because I could call and say, we need the paperwork on this incident, and it is just a few minutes, and they'd come on it. It's been a pleasure working with you. I'm going to miss you tremendously. And the fact that he worked so many nights, I'm thinking of cases where kids were committing suicide or trying to commit suicide, and he was personally involved in going out, drug issues. People don't understand how many hours he spent, not just in the daytime, but at night. Thank you, Chief.
But just like any great leader, Chief has always surrounded himself with good people too. And that's the key probably to one of his successes, is that he surrounds himself with very good people. And that takes a good leader to be able to do that.
Absolutely. Mr. Norton, you bring up a very valid point that a lot of people don't realize the amount of time that our SROs put in, especially chief, because whenever we get in our tip text, if we get something that's a serious, it could be midnight, it could be 1 o'clock, it could be 3 o'clock in the morning, and we have to investigate for the safety of our children. And this guy right here is always in his car going, and so it's a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week job. And so, and he's never let us down. And so I do appreciate that. So Chief, I know, but I do appreciate you. Let's get a picture. Come on.
You could have. And I'd have fired, that's good.
Yes, you should have still fired.
Thank you so much.
Okay, well, that's all the recognitions. I know that's not enough, maybe, but it is. I think we had,
Thank you.
I can go ahead and tell you this, and I don't have it in my report. The report meeting, so, more than
I know it's, difficult during these times to recognize as many as we would like to recognize, because I know usually every board meeting would have the ADA recognition, things like that, but with the limitations that we're under, I'm so glad we're able to recognize these people tonight. We appreciate y'all very much. All right, item number 5 is the approval of the November 9th, 2020 minutes. Do I have a second? Motion, sorry.
Make a motion that we approve the November minutes.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And that passes. Item number 6 is the approval of the monthly financial report for October 2020. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And that passes. Item number 7 is the approval of change to policy GADE, sick leave. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And that passes. Item number 8 is the approval of change to policy GADJ, personal leave. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a motion and a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And that passes. Approval of the 2021-2022 school calendar. I'm going to ask Dr. Hampton to make a little presentation to us first.
Okay.
And then we'll open it up for a motion.
I'd like to talk to you about the process that we went through to come to the calendar for next school year that we're presenting to you tonight. Back when we were shut down schools completely last spring, our concerns started immediately for our students and the loss of instructional time. And so when we started having conversations of how we can improve or how we can catch up or how can we gain some of that time back for our students, because even if you're not a struggling student, you're still missing instructional time and not being in front of a teacher. So this idea of this calendar, because there are some other school districts there's one other school district doing a similar calendar to that now, and there's another school district on the coast that's going to go to it next year as well. And so when we start talking about this calendar, the opportunities that we felt to be able to bring, because we've always done summer school, and that's a very reactive type approach to students failing. You failed now, let's bring you back in and let's get you called up. And it's not about learning, it's about getting a grade, And so we felt like summer school was very ineffective, and that was apparent when we decided to open up 2 weeks before school started to allow kids to come in, when the shutdown was lifted. We were able to bring students in, and we didn't have very good participation in the summertime because of, people scared of the virus, not knowing what to find, and just people not wanting to start school any sooner than they had to. And so as we started talking about this calendar, we got school started, we got in, and we started going back to how we can get more instructional time for our students. How can we do that? How can we meet the needs for our struggling students, but also some of our higher students? And we kind of went back to this as a district. When I say we, it's a district leadership team. As we started talking about that as a district leadership team, so we sat down and we kind of put together a mock calendar. and see what this would look like here, what this would look like there. And so we came up with a calendar that's very similar to the one that you had in your packet, to where we would start, our students would start on July 22nd, and that's 2 weeks early. Then and what they call it is it's a flexible schedule. We call it a flexible calendar. Some people call it a modified calendar. But we would go 9 weeks, and then we would have a 2-week break. During that 2-week break, that first week of the 2-week break, we want to utilize that for some of our struggling students and provide timely remediation for some of our struggling students who are failing. And so instead of waiting to the end of the school year to get them caught up, we get them caught up that time during that week. And that week will look like an 8 to 12 day. It's not going to be mandatory. Students do not have to come. It's an opportunity for them to come. We do want to make it fun for our elementary students. We want to provide a camp type atmosphere, and we want to do STEM camps or coding camps and make it a camp type atmosphere where we have some time for our remediation catch up if you need it, but you also get some fun time too to be able to do some other activities. We might have the archery team come down and have archery, high school. It would be a perfect opportunity for some of our high school extracurricular activities to do recruiting type time for students. My daughter's in show choir. Be good to have a little show choir band camp type, for our younger students to expose them to musical instruments. And so soccer camps or something like that. So, those things are still in the planning phase, and we didn't want to go too far into the planning until we knew that the schedule was adopted. And so for our middle school students, that we already have the 21st Century grant that we have now. They will continue doing that 21st Century grant. We'll be able to do that during that time, still doing some remediation, still doing some help, doing some camp type, not that it's campy, but more just an opportunity for enrichment for some of those students. And I can see that being more like coding and, that sort of thing. For high school students, we would like to also help our struggling students, but provide ACT boot camps during that time, have PSAT, SAT camps, state test prep, so that, the students that are on that bubble of not being able to pass or having to take a retest to get help with their state testing. So doing those sort of things. And so, as you can see, it's endless to some of the things that have some options because we have the free time to be able to dictate that time how, and it's going to be imperative that we attract those students and give them something to come to for, that sort of thing. One of the concerns that we had, and again, this is not going to be mandatory for students. It will not be mandatory for, teachers will work 187 days. We will use some of our federal funds or Title I money to bring teachers back in, and they will be paid extra on their extra contract for that time that they wanted to work. So when we surveyed our teachers, we asked them if they would be interested in working because we wanted to make sure before we went too far with this calendar that we had enough employees that would want to work extra during that first week. And we had over 360 some odd teachers saying that they would be willing to work during that time. And so, and again, it's just from 8 to 12. And so they had the rest of the day in the second week of the 2 weeks as well. So we do that the last week of September, first week of October. Then we have spring break already in March. And so we want to extend that one more week. We're having 2 weeks between the third 9 weeks and the fourth 9 weeks and still do the same type of camp for the little ones and remediation and ACT and all that stuff for our high school kids. And provide all those activities for them during that time as well for the first week. So we put it together and we still got out of school in this calendar the Friday before Memorial Day. So we'll get out before June 1st. It'll be May the 27th will be the last day of school. So after we kind of got it together, we had a principals meeting, a virtual principals meeting. I proposed it and asked the principals what they thought about it. Overwhelmingly, they were in support of it. Didn't have anybody that was against it. And of course, our principals are on longer contracts and they're, some of their comments were, we're already working anyway. So, I mean, it's like, so I said, okay, well, we have a superintendent's advisory committee, which is one teacher from every campus in our district. So we have 19 people on this committee. And there's elementary teachers, middle school teachers, high school teachers. And so we scheduled a virtual meeting with them. I showed them the two. We had a traditional calendar and we had a flexible calendar. Showed them the two and talked a little bit about it. I got out because I did not want to sway. I didn't want them to think that I was forcing the calendar. So Meg Stewart was kind of facilitating that group in this discussion. And so I got out of the meeting to let them talk candidly. And I get a call from Meg about 15 minutes later. And she says, okay, so this is what we're going to do. We need to talk about this. We need to talk about that. I said, hold on just a second. What did the teachers? She said, oh, everyone on this committee wanted this calendar. It was not a single person, not a single teacher that. And no offense, but teachers you're watching, no offense, but in my time in administration, it's very rarely you get 19 teachers from different levels of
19 of any.
19 anybody agree on.
to agree on the same thing. And so they were overwhelmingly in support of the flexible calendar. So then to the point where they asked if they could take to their buildings, talk to their faculty, and talk to them about what the differences between the traditional and the flexible. So we had that. We had our early release Wednesday. We scheduled virtual meetings with our faculty on each campus, and those people talked to the campuses about the flexible calendar and the traditional calendar. That Thursday, we sent out a survey for our teachers and for all of our employees. All of our employees, we surveyed all our employees, and we received 1,088 survey responses, which typically when we send out the two calendar choices, we get about 500 responses of all our employees. And 76.5% of our employees voted for the flexible calendar. Our certified staff voted for it at 77.3% in favor. So, and I looked for differences in the elementary, middle, and high school teachers, and there were no differences overwhelmingly. Matter of fact, middle school teachers at 82.9% were in favor of the flexible calendar. And so every non-certified category that we had was also in favor of the flexible calendar for child nutrition purposes or maintenance and those. I do have some comments that I can read that, because we left an open-ended question on the survey so that they can, like to get some rich and see what the problems were from our teachers. We did the same for our parents too. I'll talk about that in a minute. Some comments in favor of the flexible. It says the flexible calendar gives us time to remediate those who are behind in classwork and have additional time. Enrichment activities or extracurricular activities. The flexible calendar does not hinder those activities, according to the Mississippi High School Activities Association. I really appreciate the potential of the optional enrichment programs. I feel like that, especially in the small area that they're in, that clubs and remediation and other activities often offered through the school will give some parents and students some students things to look forward to. I think the option is a great way to give back to our community and better support our kids. I believe the flexible calendar will allow much needed time for teachers and students with ever-changing schedules, protocols due to COVID. Longer breaks would allow employees time to reflect and regroup on upcoming unforeseen changes. I am so glad finally get this flexible calendar. I wanted this for years. Also get out of Christmas on the 22nd. Also getting out for Christmas on the 22nd traditional was very hard when you have to travel 2 days to see family. Some of the staff that was in favor of the traditional calendar, I think the traditional calendar works is best for working families. It would be hard to find childcare for 2 weeks here and 2 weeks there. With the flexible calendar, teachers would have to return to work for the second full week in July in order to have their classrooms ready. I also feel like it's too hot in mid-July, August for students on buses and playgrounds. There's no way that 2 teacher work days would allow for that. My wife works in another school district, and would not have the same calendar as me, same with children. In favor of traditional calendar because it's hot in July. Elementary students are unable to play outside for long. Families with students in different districts would be, it would be helpful for area districts with similar standards from churches, community organizations would offer summer programs and camps to serve students in various districts need to be considered as well. LCSD is the only district that switches to flexible calendar option. It is possible these organizations would continue to offer programs for Hattiesburg, Forest County, Bell, private schools, Lamar County students with this opportunities for collaboration is needed. So those are some of the comments, that, and it's just kind of there was some patterns to the teachers, but again, overwhelmingly more for the flexible calendar than it was for faculty than it was for the traditional. For parent survey, we have 10,300 students, and so you could multiple children in some families, so you could roughly say we have about 15,000 families. I mean, yeah, parents, I guess you can say, parents, I'm sorry. 15,000 parents, and so we had 6,113 responses to our survey. 62.9% of the parents were in favor of the flexible calendar. So it's a majority, it's not as high as the teachers. Some of the comments from the parents was flexible. This is in favor of the flexible. Flexible would prevent students and teacher burnout. It would also help retaining lessons over a short summer break. Love the flexible schedule. This is just what they need to stay on track and hopefully catch up as the year has been almost wasted year, as this year has been almost a wasted year. I love the idea of the flexible schedule. Mississippi will eventually go to in this direction, and it's great to be ahead of the game. This will help kids in our health. This will help keep our kids from falling behind in the summertime. I thought this was interesting. I included my child in making the selection. I explained both calendars to him, and he chose a flexible calendar. Giving children time between terms for remediation to make up possible assignments, days, or simply just having a break to re-energize would be beneficial. I think flexible calendar is well thought out proposal. I think it's the added enrichment and built-in remediation opportunities are a benefit for our students, and happy to support this change. Some of the parents' reasons for going traditional, flexible would cut into limited times for summer activities, keep traditional. These poor kids have already have a summer break much shorter than other districts. We all go 180 days. And the proposed schedule would shorten it even further. This makes things like planning family vacations and short sports camps very difficult. Do not like returning to school early. We prefer to extend break rather than short breaks. Childcare is too much of a problem when these breaks occur. Plus, I do not feel like interrupting kids' learning with a 2-week break is a good thing to do. It will take 2 or 3 days to get them back on track when they return. The summer break is already quite short. We are not in favor of further shortening it. As the flex calendar does, the flex calendar will also exacerbate the discord between our work calendars and the school calendar. So as you can see, it's kind of around childcare and parent work, which is a concern. There's some things that we understood that could cause some issues for our parents. Some of the things that was discussed was the Mississippi High School Activity Association and sports. We did contact the executive director of the Mississippi High School Activity Association, explain what we were doing, and he said that during those weeks off, so you got 2 different type teams. You got in-season teams, and you have teams that are extracurricular activities that are out of season. Out of season teams would still have the option of practicing the same amount of time they would have in a regular school day. So if our block is 96 minutes at our high schools for volleyball, and they would still be able to practice 96 minutes during those 2-week periods. Our in-season extracurricular activities would still practice the same amount of times that they do this time of May. And, you know, some parents saying that they would have to practice during this time. Those two coaches that were just in here now practiced all Thanksgiving week, you know. Basketball practices during Christmas, New Year's Eve, you know. Baseball, softball practices during spring break. So we already have extracurricular activities that participate in our breaks. We also have, at the beginning of school year, we have football and band come back 2 weeks prior. And so basically they would just come in to school and start there. And then I'll say like marching band, it would be beneficial for them to have, the break would come right before the state marching band competition. And that would be able to allow them to have, they would be in season, so they'd be able to have a mini band camp right there before their state championships. So anyway, so is it perfect? No, that, you know, and do we think the just having the opportunity to have time is going to fix things? No, we're going to make sure we utilize that time and be intentional about that time, encourage and try to get our students in and to take advantage of those times, and so that we can try to, again, going back to what I stated before, we look at this as an opportunity to gain back some of the instruction time that we lost to be able to help some of our students get called up, even if our regular students or even of our struggling students, to get back in front and spend some extra time in the classroom instruction with you. Any questions that any of you have? Yes,
I have
sir.
a couple. If you have a child receiving services, would they receive services during that week, whether that's speech or OT or some of those?
It depends, for special services, special education students that have IEPs. That could be just, so we have ESY, extended school year opportunities in the summertime. That we could write that into those weeks of our break for extended school year during the school year also. But if they don't qualify for that extended school year, they don't receive services in the summer anyway. And so actually the shorter break, looking at our special education students, the shorter break would actually be more beneficial in the summertime for the learning loss that we would receive in those shorter time they go without services in the summer.
We run buses and food services and those things during the first week.
Yes, we run buses. We will, again, it's not going to be mandatory, and so we will take and we will look at the need. We will get teachers to sign up voluntarily to work extra. And we have an abundance in one area of teachers, say third grade teachers in Summerall, there's abundance of third grade teachers, and we have lack having third grade teachers in Purvis that want to work. And we could ask that third grade teachers, they can go down and help because they're teaching, you know, the same standards anyway. And so we can be flexible in our staffing during that time. And so we'll take the number of staffing that we have, be a first come, first served basis for our students to make sure that we don't overload, because again, we don't want to, this is going to be a time where we can do some very intentional, individualized instruction for these students, and we don't want to overload those teachers at that time. So,
And lastly, for those things that are enrichment, is that something that's going to be made a decision level and all schools are going to offer X? Or is every school at every level going to be left to sort of freedom, sort of for them to pick and choose? How are you going to handle that? How, you want to make sure,
I'd
to
like,
me, a concern is that some schools do it really well, some schools don't do it very
Right.
well. And how do you balance that out to make sure it's a good opportunity and everybody's having to be rich?
I'd like what my thought is, and again, we didn't want to go too far down this road without having it approved, because if you spend a lot of time and then it doesn't get approved, then we don't want to. But my thought on that would be to do a need survey in the community with our parents and our students to see what the type of enrichment programs they would like to have, and it might be different from one community to another. And so we do that need survey with them, and then we can go off of that to see what the interest is, because again, we want to have that interest in the community for our students to come to the school.
I just thought of this, we probably did ask for a motion and second, and we'll discuss
Oh,
That's fine, no, that's fine, that's fine.
Yeah. I moved to bring discussion.
Okay, yeah. Okay, I have a second for discussion.
Second.
Continue discussion, thank you. That's okay, I just thought about it. All right, so more discussion, more questions? So what you are proposing, what you are recommending as the district is for us to adopt a flexible calendar for 2020.
Correct. My recommendation is that we adopt the flexible school calendar. So 9 weeks off, in school, 2 weeks off, and 1 week of enrichment remediation, off intercession times between the first and second, and the third and fourth 9 weeks.
And all other holiday, like, you're still off the full week of Thanksgiving.
We're still off the full week of Thanksgiving, 2 weeks of Christmas,
All spring break.
spring break is the second.
Weather, snow days, will it be made up in these areas?
That's part of the reason why we call it flexible too, because we will have some of the options if we needed to attend during those 2 weeks. We would have to, towards the latter end of the week, we might come back on Thursday, Friday, for the second week.
Will actually make that easier.
Correct, it would. So, you don't really know what the future holds with the vaccine and Corona in the future. I can tell you this right now, if you were to think back to the end of the first 9 weeks of this year, we had 2 schools that were shut down. And if we would have had a 2-week break and not miss any more of instruction than they did, then we could have had a restart after that 2 weeks to be able to have all our schools back open. And so that would be another added benefit underneath this umbrella of COVID if we had to do that. I could see this as also, I thought about my daughter was a senior this year. When she was 10, she broke her hip and she had to stay out of school for about 3 weeks. That week could be huge for her not to have to get caught up and do some things that she could come in and for students that are sick or have to go in a hospital or have family that's in the hospital. It could be huge for them to be able to come in and make it work with the guidance of the teacher in there and not have to do it on their own or make it up with daddy sitting at the kitchen table pulling his hair out.
I'm sure there's a financial impact. And I'm sure it's too early probably to know, but we know at least 2 more weeks of bus drivers and food services.
Correct, and we will have pared down bus drivers. We might have to look at doing some creative things with the food services to be able to, because those are all the extra work for those employees also because they're scheduled, they're contracted or they're on schedule to work certain days as well. We haven't gotten down that far to look at the impact and we'll start putting some numbers to that. So we use, in our district, we hire non-certified tutors to come in. And so that would probably be some things that we cut back on with non-certified tutors and actually being able to use money to pay for certified teachers who are teaching that subject to be able to help with remediation, help those kids. To me, that would be an added benefit. We're going to do a program audit for the programs, instructional programs that we use, and we're going to get lean with a program audit to be able to free up some money to be able to look at it. I'm a firm believer in people instead of programs. And I think our certified teachers, especially the certified teachers we have in this district, who are phenomenal, just need the time to be able to get with these kids and do some one-on-one time with some of these kids that can do work wonders. Putting them in front of the computer always is not the answer. And so I think this is more, in my opinion, an investment in our people instead of programs. So,
Any more questions?
any more concerns or anything?
That's fine.
All right, well, I'll open the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And that passes. All right, our number 10 is the plan for return to school in January 2021. Then we'll put on our campus information.
And I want you guys, and I know you guys know, but I want the people watching, because I know we usually have a good number of people watching our meetings, is that we've never wanted to go hybrid. We've never, that's not been, we know that that's not our most effective means of instruction. But it was a necessity for us to keep our schools open. I can tell you from the increase that we've had in our district, the numbers that we've seen, I can tell you right now, 3 out of the 4 of our high schools The only reason that they're still open right now is because of the hybrid and having to be able to social distance inside the classrooms. That way that we don't have the outbreaks that we have, because outbreaks is what shuts down schools due to student outbreaks. 2 reasons to shut down schools is student outbreaks, 3 or more in a student. I mean, if you think about this, as little as 5 students can shut down a school like Oak Grove High School with 1,700 students in it. And so as little as 5 students can do that, with 3 outbreaks. And so but also we got staffing needs, and we have to make sure that we have enough staffing. So sometimes we have to consider shutting down. And I can tell you right now, we have seen an increase in our student quarantines, not necessarily our positive, but our student quarantine close contacts in our faculty and staff. And we've also had our bus drivers and our cafeteria workers that that's the other, also we have to consider those things as services that we provide during the day. And so,
As many as 5, can you give kind of an example?
sure, absolutely.
Because that's hard to understand.
Correct.
For anybody that may be
Absolutely,
watching.
thank you. So if you had, say, 2 students that were on the, let's say, football team, okay, that tested positive, and you had another student that was that tested positive on the football team, so that would be an outbreak. 3 positives would be an outbreak. Well, those 2 students, so that's 3 students. Those 2 students are in the same first period class. And so with that first period class, there was 1 more positive in that class, that would be an outbreak. Then those 2 students again could be in 3rd block class with another positive. So you got 1, that's 3, 4, 5 students could shut down the whole school, because those 2 students would count in each 3 of those outbreaks, because they're exposed, they're positive, and they're exposing kids and teachers in each one of those
And the
areas.
state says any 3 groups we have in a school,
Three.
shut down the whole school.
3 outbreaks in a school. We try to look at opportunities to isolate. If we had just 3 outbreaks in our 6th grade class in the middle school, if we're able to isolate, but in a high school, when the classes are so mixed, because, not always senior, she could be in class with a freshman or, that sort of thing. And so, because there's intermingle of the grades, in the middle school, it's not as the same. We could look at
Yes.
doing just a grade level or a building or something like that. It's harder to do that on a high school level. And so, so just 3 students can shut down. So, but again, going back to my original statement, we've never, the hybrid is not our most ideal, what we want. We want to get back to the traditional. I think we need to have a plan to get back to traditional. And I think we need to be able to be flexible enough to react to the numbers once we need to, and not make blanket statements for the whole district and treat every one of our middle and high schools the same, because they are so different. So, but I can say with 100% confidence that our AD schedule has kept our classes open, and so, so what I'd like to do is, when we come back in January 7th and 8th, there's 2 days that we've already earmarked for virtual days for our high school teachers to be able to get and make sure they get their their expectations for the virtual students, to be able to get that all lined up, get their coursework out to them. Then on Monday, January the 11th, starting on Monday, January 11th, and lasting until January the 22nd, I'd like to, those 2 weeks, January 11th to 22nd, I'd like to propose that we should continue the hybrid to be able to react to the possible, if the case increase after our Thanksgiving break is the same way after our Christmas break, we're going to need some flexibility to be able to handle some things. But I'm proposing on January 25th, Monday, January 25th, that we look at the numbers and set some metrics to be able to say it's safe for these schools to go back to traditional, and these, because of the numbers and the 14 and the positive cases, these schools might need to stay hybrid for another week, but we get back to traditional ASAP as soon as it's safe. Let's put it that way. ASAF, there's the S. I mean, so I guess that's my proposal, is that when we come back from January, the middle and high schools, elementaries will still stay the same. They'll have the 2 virtual days at the beginning, and then they will stay the traditional, just as they were now. But our middle and high schools, We'll continue with the AD hybrid for 2 weeks. Then on January 25th, we'll make a determination of which schools can safely open and go back to traditional. Hoping that we can get back to traditional.
Okay, so I'm gonna try and restate that.
Okay.
If somebody can make a motion, if they'd like to. So our plan for returning to school January 2021 is for, January 7th and 8th will be continuing to be our virtual days. Starting January 11th through January 22nd, we will go hybrid, continue hybrid schedule for middle and high schools. And then on January 25th, based on the numbers and based on a school by school decision, return to traditional advice.
And I will come to the board because of our January meeting before that, and I'll have some set of metrics, either percentage or numbers per campus that we have to look at and make that determination. I'd like some concrete numbers to go by so that we're not arbitrary in our decision.
I love that we're naming an end game, so I'll make that motion, support that.
I'll second.
Trying to get back to school. I like that.
Have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And that passes. All right, we'll go to item 10B, which was added before we approve the general agenda. And this is a plan for return for elementary schools. And this is gonna be starting next Monday.
Correct. Again, we track our numbers, we don't make arbitrary decisions, and so today, this in our district, we had 937 students that were out of school due to quarantine. Most of them were quarantined, not all of them. Very few positives. And so, looking at that, their numbers increased. Out of that 937, we had 186 high school students that were out, 166 middle school students. We had 577 elementary students. And that was very eye-opening today. And we tracked it because they're quarantined for 14 days, and so we know how many. So if I was quarantined today, I know that student's gonna be out for the next 2 weeks. So we track it for the next 2 weeks, how many, what our numbers are gonna look like. And they only get larger from where they are right now. And so, we know that number could potentially get bigger. What I'm asking from the board is that we consider next Monday and Tuesday to be a full virtual day for our elementary. Mondays are, and then 60% day on Tuesday, and that'd be a full virtual. And we work to continue and complete this work week out and get the instruction before we go to home for Christmas. And then Monday and Tuesday be a virtual day that we can send home package and get those kids to do some things, some work at home. Just to. And it's, again, like I mentioned earlier, it's a staff thing. Out of our staff today, we had 159 staff members out. 27 were high school, 34 were middle school, and 70 were elementary. And so our elementaries are, and I want to say to you guys, and I want to say to people at home, is that this is not from inside the school building. These quarantines and the positive cases we have, when we trace them back, it is for outside events, outside close contacts. I mean, this is not something that's running rampant through our school. But we're getting to the tipping point for our elementaries right now that we're sending them the quarantine. I think it would be wise for us to look at just going virtual Monday and Tuesday, and in a way it gives our parents time to adjust.
I'll make the motion for that. Hopefully we'll get a second for discussion.
We'll second.
Thanks for discussion.
So, a couple of things that I want to point out, some of us were talking about this earlier, is that the number of positive and quarantined kids in just our elementary schools now is a greater number than throughout the whole district when we went to hybrid, whenever we switched and went to hybrid. And so this is just elementary schools. The number of faculty, and I don't remember the exact number of faculty at that time, but I think we were around the 30 mark, something like that. Well, now we have 70 something in just our elementary schools. And I love that you mentioned, the contact tracing happening outside of the schools, off the schools grounds. I mean, this is going to continue to be a problem until we have some personal accountability off the school grounds. And that
that, in my opinion, needs to be said loud as anything. So,
I asked my question, and it's not a follow-up to that, because I don't want to be put together with it. But in elementary students, really, we don't have a whole lot of kids testing positive. We got a lot of, it's really the adults. And they, when an adult, because they have those kids, and they're that teacher around the elementary kids, that's what's resulting in all the numbers being quarantined. Not really a lot of positive experiences there. It's really because we had the adults that they're supposed to.
And the tracing.
And the tracing, yes. And so, and we don't have a lot of outbreaks, and we won't see a lot of outbreaks in our schools because it's like I mentioned earlier, when you got those two players that go to football and you got first period, you see what I'm saying? And so those 5 elementary students don't change classes. And so therefore we control the movements. And so we're not seeing outbreaks there. And so we're not close to shut down due to outbreaks, but the number of students that we're seeing is concerning that we're getting to the point where it's impactful and not being able to teach them the loss of instruction is getting to that point.
Like I said too, I want to be back full, I understand in person, but until the behaviors outside result in the numbers outside come down, I don't know how we can do that. I mean, I'm sure if it was feasible, we would move virtual earlier for elementary. We just don't have enough time to get there until then, but I mean, it's.
I will go ahead and say this, and I think this is a truth. There's not a single person in our schools, teacher, principal, assistant principal, counselor, anyone that would love to go traditional right now. It is having hybrid is more work on our teachers, with virtual students on top of that, and those things. Our teachers having to do double work, and it's taxing on them. And there's not a single person that doesn't want kids back in school to save as soon as possible.
Yeah, all the parents that have contacted me have said the hybrid is not helping their children. We need to try to find them.
But I can tell you, the only thing that's beneficial is that at least they get to see their teachers twice a week instead of having to shut down because we've already had to shut down. So
I will say that the hybrid experience, because I've talked to my experience, is different at very different places. There are some people in some classes that have gotten really good instruction. They get 4 days of instruction a week. They've got to be able to do the offline stuff to keep up at the end of school. And for those AP classes or those more intense classes or those that have graduation requirements, that's crucial. But I've also talked to parents where that's not happening. Teacher does the same thing Monday and Tuesday. And so they're getting 2 days of instruction. And inconsistency has caused some of the problems. And part of that's just because of the urgency we had to put it together.
correct.
You know, if we had it planned, we could have handled that and addressed them a little quicker. We're addressing them as they come up, I know. And so it's part of the state of affairs that we're in.
It's very hard due to intricacies of each content area to say, here's the model to follow, you gotta do it this way. And, we've tried to put some controls in for our teachers, say this is the expectations, but we don't wanna handcuff a teacher. And English instruction is so much different than math instruction, science, and I mean, so you can't take the autonomy away from our instructional staff. But, we have seen some cases where, that the fidelity of our instruction might not, in a hybrid model, is not as good in some places as it is in others. So we've tried to address those issues as they come up and address those from our building levels also.
Bottom line,
Anybody
I had
have to elementary hybrid?
What I-
Any consideration or really the feasibility of doing elementary hybrid if we had to when we came back?
Due to, the whole reason, in my opinion, for hybrid, if that's what the board wishes, the whole reason for hybrid is to keep the kids in front of instruction. And right now, even with the numbers we have in our elementaries, we're not close to shutting down due to outbreaks because of, you know what I'm saying? So to me,
Even if somebody's missing, it's a class, not the school. That makes sense.
and so,
Because they don't change and all that, that makes sense.
correct.
I had a sixth grader last night I was talking to. And I said, how's school going? He said, it's okay. I said, so you go to school tomorrow? He said, yes, sir. He smiled. Then he said, it's so hard when you can't ask a teacher a question.
Because they're trying to get the content. Yes, I mean, it is, again, it's not ideal, and it's not.
I like your plan though.
So,
This is a motion for elementary to work December 21st, Monday, December 21st, and Tuesday, December 22nd.
Correct. Okay.
All right,
we got a motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And that passes.
Wow.
For a little while.
That's a lot.
Item number 11 is board attorney matters. Mr. Norton.
I'll probably be pretty short with this. Dr. Hampton had asked me to work with Coach. They had asked for an amendment based on COVID issues. As you know, a lot of you are familiar with the contract we have that is in place now. There was a 4-year contract, started 2019, goes to 2023. And what Coach has done is, and I worked with different people with Coca-Cola. I worked with Jennifer Hessian to look at the numbers. And they've asked us to amend the contract in two basic ways. One is to extend it 1 more year. As you know, the board can only go 4 years. So since we're already into this one for 1 year, they've said, look, we're missing a lot of revenue this year, a lot of opportunities, as you can understand. So they said we would like to extend it to 2024. And the second thing was, they said they normally would be giving us $10,500 per year on marketing. And they said because we haven't sold drinks and we haven't sold products at the schools.
Well, especially in our activities or athletic, events, because we've limited 25% most of our activity.
So they did a spreadsheet and came up with some numbers. And rather than the $10,500, it's basically $7,350 for this year. And they would go ahead and pay that this month. They plan and hope that the schools will be back next year. And so that the contract, all of the terms would remain the same as we already have in place. They've added a force majeure clause that we've also done in most of our contracts now that says, if a pandemic occurs, we don't have to comply with the terms of the contract. And so they said, look, we want to have that out. If it continues, that we can come back in and say, wait a minute, we need to look at the terms. So those are the 3 basic changes.
You need a motion to we can ask questions?
Yes.
Any motion?
I'll move.
Do I have a second for discussion?
So I don't understand why we need the extra year.
Well, so, yeah, well, I think it's in the original contract that if certain things happen, that we would extend it another year. Isn't that in the original contract?
I wouldn't think.
I think it is. I'm not a big proponent of the co-contract because of how it disadvantages the boosters. I just go on record, it cost me $15,000 one fall. And I'm paying twice as much for coach as I can buy exams.
Yeah.
But
I agree with you.
there is a clause in here, so I thought that we did not have in the campus is closed for more than 30 days, extend the term for corresponding periods.
Yeah.
Page 8, it's D on that page. And then if it goes over 120 days, then it has some other thing. So I mean, I read and looking at the original contract, I didn't see that it looks like what they're asking for is in the contract. And that we're somewhat bound by the original terms of the contract is sort of what I picked up on it.
Well, it would be close anyway, because school was closed and we could go back and count the days, but we were only technically closed in the spring. And it would say that they would get that many number of days.
Right.
So now they're asking for a 4-year, so it's close, but not exactly the same. But at least there was consideration in the original contract that at this closure, that they get some extra time. So yes, they do automatically get some extra time.
Is the extended year, since they're reducing this year for time actually served, that we're open, and we're extending a year, do we pick up an additional payment for the year we're extending?
Yes, and the same $10,500.
But not the sort of upfront money that we typically get when we sign a new contract.
That's correct.
Any more questions?
The force majeure apply to both of us.
Yes.
So in the event that we don't go back to school, we also have the option to walk away or renegotiating for the contract for our members.
Yes. It goes both ways.
More questions? I'll call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
4-1. Motion passes. Item 12, 16 section land managers, Mr. Harlan.
The latest thing that was stated in one of these meetings.
Sorry, Mr. Harlan.
That's all.
We'll get you back on before 8.
Take the bill us over time, I'm sure.
He's salary.
He's sorry, don't get it.
I know, I'm just playing.
First item I have is to remove Ms. Betty Page Roseberry from lease number 877.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? That passes.
Mr. Superintendent, are you okay?
Oh, yeah,
with
Mr.
this?
Superintendent, sorry.
Yes, I am.
See, buddy, I need you here to remind me.
See, this is it.
I didn't learn that part, I'm sorry.
After tonight, don't worry.
I think about it every time, but I think he'll type up if he.
Well, if I I do approve it.
Thank you, thank you.
I mean, I know that.
Continue,
Yes,
Carl.
that is, please be on record.
So the next item I have is cancel lease number 645 at Delton and Phyllis Martin.
Make a motion to cancel lease 645.
Buddy, I second. Thank you, Matt. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And that passes.
Next item is to approve a new 40-year residential lease to Mr. Andrew Corley.
Make a motion to approve new 40-year lease for Mr. Andrew Ford.
Have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And that passes.
Next item is to approve the rental adjustment for lease number 662.
Have a motion.
So moved.
Have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I abstain. I want to too.
There'll be 3.
I want to say amen.
Well, I mean, I know, but come on now.
We got 3 ayes and 2 abstentions.
No, I'll vote aye.
Okay, so we go
Grudgingly.
4 yeas and 1 abstention. Yes. That passes.
Next item is to approve the rental adjustment for lease number 772.
Great, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Have a second. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I'll also abstain.
Aye.
Last item I have,
Mr. Lynn, you got that one?
last item I have is to approve a new 40-year residential lease to Mr. Williams Mowers.
Have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that passes.
That's all I have, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
You didn't leave your report during all that, huh?
I mean, didn't I
What
already
about your
cover?
report?
I think you've talked to me.
Don't you bitch out 13 over here, I mean, come on.
I can hit the high points
New
real
high
quick.
points.
We have handed out all our map books for our new map books, and to listen to Mr. Randall and it was like Christmas for some of our teachers who had old laptops, the old white Mac Pros, that were on their last leg. We delivered every one of the,
How many did y'all hand out?
800.
800 MacBooks and
6,500
6,500 Chromebooks.
Chromebooks.
That's big number.
The big numbers. And so we delivered, and I want to thank these paper company, is that correct? They let us borrow their liftgate truck to deliver. And so we didn't have to hand load every one of those boxes of Chromebooks onto a truck and then take them off and then unload them. We were able to do the pallet jacks, and that saved us a lot of time. We were able to get those out to our building a lot quicker. So we finished delivering our Chromebooks to our buildings today. We've got procedures to get those out as soon as possible, and hopefully they'll be going home with new Christmas presents and their new Chromebooks. Thanks to Mr. Randall and his staff for getting that out and getting it done. As Ms. Ashton said, we had one auditor, our internal auditors, they're gonna give us a report next week, and then when we come back, our Christmas present's gonna be the state auditor coming in for their audit. And I have no doubt whatsoever that we will pass with flying colors. And so excited. I just like to mention our child nutrition or transportation. Those people, I mean, they're doing phenomenal things to get, being down having quarantined some of the staff and working in close quarters. We had one day last week where our central office staff, and Mr. Folks, went and delivered and brought food to our, in here in Purvis, because we had a large number of cafeteria workers out in this certain area. And so, so it's all hands on deck and everybody's chipping in teamwork. And that just makes you know things that you're working in a great place with great people who just get the job done. And just hats off, I can't even tell you how much, I mean, even in dire situation with transportation today, we had full coaches out of classrooms get kids home today, and so they did it and it was done. Got the text saying they got everybody done, and it was just great to see that. Putting the final touches on transportation over here in Purvis on the transportation building. If you have an opportunity to drive down and look at the Lumberton football field, you know, we had that retaining wall, that slope where it was on that road and it was collapsing. We got a retaining wall in, they've got the fiber down, they put fine straw, and they got the pampas grass planted. And the last thing they have to do is the fence. Just Clint sent me a video of that in his first class. I told him this was first class, and it really does. It makes that stadium look so nice. So we're very proud of that. And as you can see right here, solar panel, our structures are up. We're just waiting for the panels to come in.
I saw that when I go in.
I didn't know what that was supposed to look like, but it was more substantial than I thought. I mean, those things are huge. And I was like, you know, when they put them up, I walked out one afternoon when they got them up. I was like, man, I didn't know what I had in my mind, but it wasn't that. So it's neat. And of course, extracurricular, we did recognize our 2 state champions, and we have multiple, we'll be recognizing multiple state champions in our dance and cheer next board meeting. So I'm excited to bring those before you guys to recognize them and their hard work and what they put into. So that's it.
All right. Item number 14 is to set the next regular scheduled meeting on Monday, January 11th, 2021. We're going to do it as live stream for right now, unless things change between now and then. Is everybody good with that?
Yes, and
So
so
check
moved.
my calendar.
You gonna check your calendar, buddy?
I won't be here.
You won't be here?
No.
Okay, good. Do I have a quorum? You're
Can we
here?
know why?
You'll be here? Okay.
There's dogs and kids.
That's what I thought. It's your time of year.
All right, so I'll take a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Agenda's on those numbers. Number 15, item consent agenda. Mr. Braswell,
No questions.
Mr. Morse,
All right.
Mr. Chance,
You good?
Mr. Mayo.
I'm good.
All right. I'll open the floor for a motion.
So moved, we accept the consent agenda.
All right, second. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And that passes. Item number 16, there is nothing under other. Number 17 is consider executive session. We have 4 personnel matters, 1 attorney matter.
Make a motion that we consider executive session for those reasons.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Make a motion that we enter executive session.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I make a motion that,
We're in.
I'm gonna streamline this baby.
We gotta have executive session before we can.
Back to Matt, back to lunch.
Yeah, back to that.
Oh, yeah.
It's like the umpire standing on 50-yard line, nobody around. Mask on. For the camera.
We're back live.
Okay, item number 19 is to exit executive session.
So make them second.
Thank you, Matt, thank you.
Ready?
I don't know. You can forget it now.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item number 20 is recess. Item
Motion.
motion.
So
And a-
moved.
and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes, we are in recess.
All right. So,
That all
let's
you,
let's stay.
Recess in front of Joe?
I don't know, I just